as y'all all know, Beyonce made a huge splash or a huge wave back earlier this year, right around when the Super Bowl was happening, when she announced that she was pretty much dropping a country inspired album. She dropped two songs. Of course, Texas Hold'em was the first, like the lead single, and I think it was another song that she did, but Texas Hold'em really stood out, and it was like everywhere. You couldn't stop hearing it. And then the album itself got dropped about a month and a half later, like towards the end of May, and it was a huge success. Like, it was a huge success. I could probably see it being nominated for multiple video, or not video, but music based awards. But one award show where it should have been nominated, it was not nominated. And that award show is none other than the CMAs, better known as the Country Music Awards. You heard that correctly. Beyonce's Cowboy Carter album did not, let me repeat, did not receive one nomination. Not for any singles, not for any collaborations, because she did quite a few collaborations, not even for the album itself. And this album was so widely received, it got a lot of praise, and it did well on the charts as an album and with the singles. So now, naturally, her fans are calling out the CMAs for their anti-blackness, and as they should. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. And it was something I was reading as I was going through the article that lets me know, okay, yeah, for certain, the CMAs, this is definitely an anti-black thing, and I think it's also a get back thing at her too, for her performance with the Dixie Chicks back in 2016. But let me go ahead and get into the article. Beyonce fans slammed the CMA Awards as racist for not nominating the singer in a single category at the 2024 show, despite the success of her country album Cowboy Carter. One user said, "There's just no effing way that B and Cowboy Carter got completely ignored at the CMAs, but F-ass Post Malone got 4 nominations." Now let me just stop right there. Post Malone is actually featured on this album. He has a song that he collabed with Beyonce on, but she didn't get nominated for anything related to her album, but he got nominated 4 times for whatever music he has in the country genre. That's very interesting. They go on to say this is just racism and there's no other word for it because Cowboy Carter is one of the biggest albums of the year, and it literally put country on the spotlight again this year, wrote one upset ex-user Monday. Another person said, "Well done, CMA. Keep continuing to prove that y'all are just a bunch of racists beyond racists. Beyonce made history with Cowboy Carter and achieved more than any other country album or artist the past few years. Y'all are just too damn scared of her," added another. Someone else said, "No one in the history of having a #1 album and song has been completely snubbed at an award show in any category. The CMAs can kiss the blackest part of my ass. Beyonce deserved better," said a third fan. Another one said, "Anyone with common sense knew the CMAs was going to pay B in dust. They do not like her. They are not going to honor an album that was sparked from their racist treatment towards her," tweeted a fourth person. The discourse about the CMA Award snub came moments after the organization released its 2024 nominations Monday. Beyonce's, whose 8th studio album debuted at #1 in various countries after its March release and received widespread critical acclaim, failed to garner any nods. Not only did Cowboy Carter and its lead single Texas Hold'em top the Billboard 200 and Hot 100 charts respectively, but the album also made the Crazy in Love performer, age 43, the first black woman to top the country albums charts since its inception in 1964. So you're talking about, 60 years ago, when this since the inception of the country music genre. The project also sparked interest in other black country singers who were featured on Cowboy Carter's, including Shabuzi, who was featured on Sweet Honey Buckin' and Spaghetti. His single, a bar song, Tipsy, has since spent 8 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Several fans also believe Cowboy Carter was not nominated because the album was inspired by the criticism Beyonce received following her 2016 CMA performance with the Chicks. Well, they used to call them the Dixie Chicks, but now they just call themselves the Chicks. This album has been over 5 years in the making, she wrote on Instagram in March. "It was born out of an experience that I had years ago where I did not feel welcome. and it was very clear that I wasn't. The 16 Carriages singer said because of that experience, she did a deeper dive into the history of country music. The criticism I faced when I entered this genre forced me to propel the past limitations that were put on me. Act 2 is a result of challenging myself and taking my time to bend and blend genres together to create this body of work, she added. Morgan Wallen, who was previously caught on video using a racial slur, leads this year's CMA Awards nominations with 7. Now that's the part where I said if they really want to get them on the anti-blackness, get them on that one, because I remember that Morgan Wallen chick. I think she was the one that had said something about Beyonce's album, and it was very steeped in anti-blackness. I vaguely remember her because I believe I talked about her either in a pre-record or in a live. I can't remember exactly, but I remember her name. Now look at that. The CMAs nominated this woman who had said a bunch of slurs, and not only did she get nominated, but she's the leading nominee. That means out of everybody else that's nominated for the awards at that ceremony, she has the most. Now, you can call it a coincidence or not, but I'm telling it like it is. That is definitely some anti-blackness. But am I even really remotely surprised by that? This is the CMAs that we're talking about here. Do you know what the ratings could have done if Beyonce was nominated? And not only that, performed there, just like in 2016. Now, speaking of performing, I hope they don't try to spin the block and ask her, or if they haven't already, if they do ask her to perform, to which if I was her, I would say hell no. How dare you ask me to perform after you snubbed my album? Like, I didn't get one nomination and you want me to perform for what, ratings purposes? No, that's just simply not going to happen. But I think out of all of these posts, of course the obvious is, the anti-blackness, but I think her doing that performance back in 2016 with the Chicks, I'm gonna be respectful of their name, I think that's what did it. Because while the ratings did go up during that performance, it was a lot of backlash behind it. Because if y'all forgot or don't remember, back when Bush was in office, Bush Jr., I can't remember exactly what term it was, if it was the first or the second term, they had made some comments about him, and those comments ended up getting them blackballed out of the industry. Like, they could not perform anywhere. They probably got locked out of the studio. They couldn't record nothing. It's like they just vanished off the face of the earth when that happened. And them performing with Beyonce, that was like their reemergence, because people hadn't heard from them in years. So when they got up on that stage and they performed with her, who at the time and still is one of the biggest artists right now, that was a huge surprise to the world. That Beyonce was even on that show, because she was performing that song Daddy Lessons off of her Lemonade album, which is a country themed song, but it was not even a collaboration song. It was just her song, but she had them come on there and perform with her. And a lot of people saw that as like, wow. Some people saw like, whoa, okay, that's huge. But people who remember what the Dixie Chicks did when they were called that saw something else. So that's probably, that could be another reason why. But either way, that still does not matter, or should not matter, because one does not have anything to do with the other. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna be honest with you, this was actually a pretty good album. I actually listened to it. It was actually pretty good. And like people said, this album actually helped propel a lot of black country artists that people didn't know to the forefront, and had them listening to their music. Because let's be real here, let's be honest with ourselves here. And I'm surprised I didn't say this sooner. Country music was born out of black people. Let me say that again. Country music was born out of black people, but black people got pushed out of it, and then it became what it is now. They say, sure, you can drop any country music you want as a black artist, but we don't have to acknowledge you either. That's fine. As long as they get the push and the support, that's really all that matters. But at the end of the day, the fact that they snubbed this album completely, not one nomination, to make it seem like this was a horrible album when it actually wasn't, that's really insane. And I'm glad that people spoke on it, as I knew they would, because y'all already know how Beyonce's fan base is. They some crazy people. That beehive is insane. Sometimes they get it right and sometimes they get it wrong, but in this case they definitely were right to call it out for what it is. But I'll tell you this one thing, Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour, oh, that's going to be a sight to behold. And I think in the back of her mind, she's probably like, you know what? I didn't get these nominations like I wanted. I'm sure she's probably going to get nominated for a slew of Grammys. So there's that. But that tour is going to be like, you know, I got this work going on in the background. I'm not even worried. But at the end of the day, her fans are going to speak on it as they should. And I'm glad they called it out because that's what it's really looking like. Especially since your leading nominee was caught on video using a slur. Like, how does that look? But they probably don't care.